I'm Riley Verdict. I'm a religious studies major and a student outreach coordinator for the Department of Religious Studies. And thank you for hopping on here with me.
Nice to meet you. I'm Jay Bohanon, alumni of the Religious Studies Master's Program.
Asking what year did you graduate the program?
So I graduated in 2018.
Very nice. Um, and where did you go afterward? What do you do now?
Yeah, so immediately afterwards, I was unemployed for a little bit after I graduated, but I ended up doing during my time at KU, which is related to religious studies, but not quite. While I was in the master's program, I would say of my cohort of five or six, almost everyone in the cohort was had plans of going on to an academic career. I was a little older, so most of the people in my program probably came right out of undergrad. I think I was 26 when I done the program, so I'd already been working professionally for a bit. I'd left a professional career to come do the program. My plans when I first started were I wanted to focus on Hindu and Indian religions. I was taking Arabic because my plan was to join the Foreign Service upon completion. Unfortunately, halfway through my program, the election of 2026 or 2016 happened, and I realized that I had no plans of joining the Foreign Service with the administration that would be coming into office. So I had a little bit of an existential crisis because probably the decade leading up to that, that had been the thing that I wanted to do. But the thing I knew about myself was there was never going to be just one career for me. So I wanted to do some other things, which I did. Um, got some experience in other fields, and then I was to do the Foreign Service. So it's like, this is going to happen. What am I going to do next? This is the thing I've been planning for. Um, During my time in the program, during that first year, I started transitioning, and through transitioning, had gotten involved with and this is like a really long way of answering your question, sorry. I'd gotten involved with the Center for Diversity for Gender and Sexual Diversity, SDG. Um, and so I started a group called Queer Students of Color. Um, and I've been working with them, and through that work, I'd also gotten involved at the time with the vice provost of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and was interning in that office. So I knew going into my last year, I had no interest in an academic career, but I wasn't sure what that would look like. So there was an opening at the SDG, and I applied. I didn't get it, but it gave me the idea that maybe the next kind of thing for me could be advocacy work around LGBT stuff. And that kind of set the stone for me wanting to do DEI work and ultimately going corporate. So I kind of made a plan that I wanted to work at the LGBT Center for about 2.5 years and then leave and do corporate consulting. So when I did eventually get a job, I ended up at Vanderbilt University and their Center for LGBTQI Life. So I did advocacy and advising for LGBT students at the university, trainings on like LGBT 101 trainings and stuff. Did that for almost exactly 2.5 years. And then I left to come back to the KC Metro, where I worked at GEHA, which stands for Government Employee Health Association. It's essentially an insurance company that provides insurance exclusively to federal employees and military retirees. And I worked in their DEI office. And so I was able to do DEI both internally and externally, which meant trying to make sure that our benefits were inclusive of all identities. How could we do that? Expanding benefits, particularly for trans members. Internally, that meant helping to start our employee resource group. Also, the thing that we believed was that we needed to, in order to better serve our members, we need to have employees that reflected the identities of our members. So, really working to expand efforts for diverse hiring. But when we say diverse hiring, I mean like all identities. How are we getting more employees with disabilities, employees of color, like from different experiences, right? So really working to do that. And then like with our marketing campaign, we had never really considered other identities in our marketing campaign. So using our employee resource groups to really kind of help reflect that. I was there for about just over 3 years. and I left. And I'm currently at the American Academy of Family Physicians, where I work in the Center for Diversity, Health Equity, and Global Health. This is a little different because it is, whereas previously I was doing both internal and external DEI work. A lot of it was internal. Now my work is exclusively external. The American Academy of Family Physicians is a member organization, so our members are family physicians. All of the work that we do is um, told to us by our members. So we have kind of a governance structure. They pass resolutions. Those resolutions dictate the work that we do. So I am doing a lot of work around health equity as prescribed by our members. And that's what I've been doing for the last a year or so.
What was your focus during your time at like KU in religious studies? Right.
Yeah, so as I said, I started out focusing on Indian religions and studying Arabic, which I think taking another language that's not Greek is pretty, I wouldn't say unusual, but everyone else who was taking a language was taking Greek,
Mhm.
and ancient Greek at that. So I think that kind of set me apart. Ultimately, I ended up focusing on doing a total 180, which actually has nothing to do with the work that I do now. But I was, based on my experiences and things I was interested in, I ended up focusing on religion as demonstrated in sports, particularly performance of gender and what that means in the playing of sports and how there can be a religious connection to sports. So I worked a lot with Dr. Zagrai and
Mhm.
his work with basketball and James Naismith, and I used a lot of that stuff for my ultimate work, which was based around how performance of masculinity is somewhat of a religious performance in Muay Thai or Thai boxing in Thailand.
Very cool. That's actually I focus on Hindu and Indian religion as
Oh,
well.
cool.
That's my whole jam is in that area.
Hmm.
Um, so how did your my next question is how did your experiences in religious studies or skills that you developed going through the program um, help prepare you for what you do now?
Yeah, so I mean, I think at the core of religious studies or any type of, studying a religion is this idea of empathy and getting to know other people, right? Like we are studying people and their beliefs, which is probably the most personal thing a person has, right? Is what they believe. And so to be able to engage with people about their beliefs in a way that is not offensive, doesn't make people defensive, right? You're opening up people to the most personal part of themselves and you're studying it. And so there's a lot of skills around building relationships, connecting with people, right? Leading with humility. And so those are all things that are key to the work that I have done since leaving the program.
Mhm.
I practice humility every day. A lot of the work that I do, I'm engaging with groups who often I don't hold their identities. And so just like you would engage with a group of people who you may not share their religious beliefs, but you're still trying to work with them and learn about them, that's the work that I do every day, right? I'm engaging with people who we may have nothing in common or share no identities, and yet I'm trying to advocate for them the best that I can, which means I have to learn about them. I have to listen to them.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the kind of observation stuff that you learn and curiosity that you take um, in a religious context, religious studies context, all of that I apply every day to the work that I'm doing. So um, I think it's really the skills that are key to humanities, I think is what I've taken with me. But also I think it's stuff like, I'm not going to be the expert in the room. When I'm engaging with communities who practice religious traditions that aren't my own or different from my own, like I'm not the expert here, right? I'm hoping to learn about their experiences and maybe to eventually be an expert. But that humility that you kind of have to go into in these studies and just curiosity, I think is a lot of what I do. Um, Also, you write a lot in humanities. I write a lot in the work that I have done, whether it is writing, reports about the work that I do, it's doing interviews, whether it's even like social media stuff. Like I feel like all the writing and editing that I had to do as a religious studies, both major and undergrad, although not at KU, and then in the religious studies program, like all of those skills have been very key in the work that I do day to day since leaving the program.
What
Okay.
did you enjoy about the program? Do you have any favorite memories from your time in the religious studies program?
Yeah, so I think it's both a blessing and a curse that the program is so small. It's it's a curse because like there are not a lot of people, so there's a lot of focus on you, right? And so, if you're not doing well, you're doing well, people are going to know, which can be a little scary at times. But on the flip side, I think you get a lot of personal care because the program is a little smaller. So I had really great relationships with all of the faculty. In the department. Our now chair, Jackie, like adopted me as another child. And so I was able to go to her house regularly and have dinner with her and her family.
Very nice.
There's just like the type of relationships that you can build with our faculty that I don't think you can do in a program or a department that has a lot more people. So it's a plus and a minus. But I really enjoyed the tight connections that I had with our faculty and in being able to just like, I mean, everyone has office hours, but just office hours are office hours, but they felt more personal because you had the personal connections with the faculty that maybe you don't get in other departments. Um, Favorite memory, that's a hard one. I I mean, one thing that I will say is I think that I think they could have been better at it, but I do think that when we had suggestions and ideas, I think they listened to us. Now, granted, they could have done a better job listening to us, but one of my fellow cohort members, we suggested having a movie series about um, movies that have a religious connection. And so the department, we would show the movies, they ordered pizza for us, people would come, and then afterward we'd give a little lecture
Mm.
about the film. And so my core ho core ho cohort fellow did The Exorcist and talked about the connections around exorcism and things like that. I did Fallen and Azazel and how it's connected to the Ethiopian Bible and demons and stuff like that. And there are a few other films in the series, and so that's one that stands out to me because it's like here's something that we got to think of that brought the things we're interested in religion to more of a public eye, and then they allowed us to have a whole programming around it. Um, that's probably the one that comes to mind.
Very nice. We actually, I I help run an interfaith student organization,
Yeah.
and we do very similar things. I think this semester, next week, we're doing our second showing of the PBS documentary Three Chaplains, and then
Oh,
having a
cool.
big discussion around it. So it's very
Yeah. No, that's cool that like something similar is still going on, even in like a
Mhm.
different kind of format and even in a different entity. But that's really cool.
Question.
Mm.
Do you have any classes or events that you attended that really stood out during your time at KU?
Yeah, so I think I still think a lot about Sam Brody's Intro to Judaism. Just because I think that many of us have like heard of Jews, we may think we know about Jews, but the full history and impact that Jewish culture has had on the world, even though I think about before this, I didn't know Maimonides and his like impact on Western medicine, right? So I there's so many connections that I think about a lot in that class. And there was a lot of reading. I can't say I did it all, but I think about like just things that you think you know, and then finding out that there's so much that you don't know. So that's a class that stands out to me. Professor Zagra, or not Zagra, Molly Zahn, who's no longer at the department, she was the chair when I was there. She had a class on scripture. Her focus was more on ancient Hebrew text and a lot with like the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff like that. But in this class, we were able to look at scripture as a whole and use examples from various traditions. And I thought that that was a really interesting course to take. Um, I do think the theories class it wasn't my favorite class, but um, I still reference a lot of the texts that I read in that class. Um, Trying to think. And I do think I think could have been better, but I do think that Zagrais um s- class on sports and seeing sports through various cultures, particularly Native American um sports, because I think that when we think about sports, unfortunately in this country, we don't think about Native Americans. I think they're kind of like not, I don't think they are often a forgotten community,
Mhm.
despite being the first ones here. That being said, I think it was really cool to see, to learn about traditions throughout Mesoamerica, as well as, of course, basketball. And I don't know, it's just a really fun class to learn about things in the religious connection in a way that I don't think we often make that connection when we think about sports as a whole.
Do you have any advice for like prospective students who are trying to into the religious studies program? We don't have a master's program anymore,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I would
by
say
and
that
large.
if you're interested in religion, I think you should do it. A lot of people, I think, get caught up on how is this going to prepare me for the next phase of my life? What am I going to do with this? Um, there's a lot of things you can do with a degree in religious studies.
Mhm.
Most of my career has had nothing to do with religion itself, and yet I've been very successful in my career aspects. That's never held me back. I have both an undergrad and graduate degree in religion and religious studies. So there's a way that you can make it work. In fact, during my undergrad, there were several people who went to med school, but they had a major. Of course, they still did the prerequisites for med school, but their major was religion, and then they manage to fit in their other stuff. So it doesn't hold you back. I think people get it's like, what do you do with that degree? You can do anything with the degree. So if it's something that you're interested in, I think that you should definitely pursue it. Even if you're not interested, I think everyone should take a religion class, because one of the things that you learn is that your experience with religion is just your experience with religion. And oftentimes, when we are adherent to a particular faith, we think that that is what the faith is, and you'll often be surprised that the way that you're practicing is not the end all be all,
Mhm.
even when it's something that feels very prescribed. So I think about Islam, right? Like there's five major things that all Muslims do. And yet what that looks like is very different in Saudi Arabia versus Indonesia versus Sudan. Even you think about Catholicism. Catholicism in America looks a lot different from Catholicism in India. So just to kind of get a better understanding of the world around you and even of your own faith, I think can be really interesting and a very positive experience for people. So everyone should take religion, but if you're interested in exploring religion, don't let the prospect of I don't know what I'm going to do with this degree hold you back, because there's so many things that you can do with the degree, and the things that you learn will be applied in so many ways.